Firstly, I wanted to ask you how long you've lived in London or in Lewisham.
I came to Lewisham when I was about 20 years old, I think. It kind of takes me into the history really, because I was abandoned at birth with my twin sister. So I grew up in the care system and officially left when I was 15. In those days you had to get a job, and then she decided she wanted to be a nurse. So she went into nursing and I kind of followed her on really. Not that I particularly was interested. I was more interested in sports. I wanted to be an athlete. And we moved to London. She became a King's midwife, community midwife, top of her grade and things like that. My twin and I had about 15 different placements from the age of 2 weeks old to 15. Living in the care system wasn't great, and had no idea about our background, who our parents were, never given any information, didn't know my identity. So that became all very stressful and caused a lot of sort of anxiety, depression, growing up as a young woman. And I decided to go into social work. On reflection, I don't think it was a great choice for me, because I was kind of overly passionate about, I didn't always agree with choices that were made. And she was a very hard-working midwife, and unfortunately was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she went through a lot of treatment in the hospital she worked for at King's, and sadly she didn't survive the treatment, and she passed away in 2012. Before she died, and I can't remember exactly how long, I kept on having issues around memory loss. I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of dementia. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? If you go, you usually go to the doctors for kind of physical ailments, and to go to the doctor and say, no, I think I'm struggling with my memory, I'm forgetting things and forgetting who my daughter's friends are, and people coming up to me and say, hi, and you don't remember. And one day I was at work, I had a blood pressure of over 200, and I'd had what you call a series of mini strokes, TIAs, and it was certainly after that I got the diagnosis, after the brain scans and things, I got the diagnosis of dementia, vascular dementia. I just, wasn't coping at all. I was in Lewisham then. I started going to the Lewisham support groups for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. Enjoyed being the social butterfly. That's part of my character, I think. Lockdown was the key to opening up this, I call it a second brain. It was a way of expressing that loneliness, because you're cut off socially from people. I had too much time to think, so I would often things about childhood, things about my life, relationships, loneliness, all came to a head. And I suppose one day I just sort of thought, I'll write this down. And so I started as a pattern of things to write things down. But I first started coming to the Dementia Art and Crafts group, which is, so we do things like, group art, have conversations, there are topics that we may follow, because days can be hard to fill. There's a point where you have to accept that life has changed, but it doesn't mean life has ended. I love travelling. I like going to new places. I like going to the countryside. I like having my holidays and sharing things with my grandchildren. So in a sense, it's about embracing being able to put myself in and surround myself with those positive things. Dementia has triggered another part of my brain to work in a different way. But the more I put pen to paper, the more it triggers something, another part of my brain to work differently. And I wrote a poem, quite a big poem, which was exhibited at that exhibition, which was about my journey of moving as a child. So it was about train journeys, bus journeys, car journeys, and all that kind of thing. So, and it was called A Journey to Nowhere. The person who's running these exhibitions said, "Oh, do you want to put one of your paintings in there?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll do that." And it sold. I sleep a restless sleep as the night eludes me, hours drifting elusively through one to another. A surface sleep. Time and thoughts and uneasy alliance are laid to rest at an eventual sleep, like the howling winds takes its place. Mother Nature, air I breathe, its life-giving force no more, as it's replaced by a snake you cannot see. This is my unwelcome visitor. An encroaching voyeur comes back to haunt me more than I'd wish. I think one of the things is with dementia, I've seen people I've been with in group settings have moved on and they're no longer here. So you don't know how long that piece of string is. That's the concern that I have. And there's a little niggle, so I think while I have the opportunity, I'm going to travel as much as possible. I've always wanted to do that. My twin wanted to do that, so I feel I have to fulfil that for her as well. I have to do that trip for her. When you have dementia, you don't stop having aspirations. And you can either seize them or you can let them lie dormant. And I choose not to let them lie dormant. I want to be able to experience new things still.
My wife and I met in medical school, and after qualification and working in London for 10 years, as I say, we moved to Birmingham, where we spent 25 years. I in the hospital as a haematologist in charge of the department, and my wife did a number of things during her career, ending up in public health. But she retrained at the age of 40 odd as a public health doctor, and she was known as Gran because she was the oldest student at that time. And she ended up as a doctor in charge of a district and finally in charge of Birmingham. Well, she died about a year ago, and I felt that we should do something in her memory, and we've decided to hold a seminar in her old then women's college, Somerville. She was offered this post to produce a report on perinatal mortality for the West Midlands because there was a failure in the West Midlands, which was quite serious, and she produced this report itemising the various problems. But interestingly, the main problem was antenatal care, which one wouldn't suppose was the case. You think it was problems with the babies or poverty or this, that or the other. But in fact it was antenatal care. And I am in the moment getting recent data on perinatal mortality. We had a memorial due in Somerville College, in the chapel at Somerville College, and one of her colleagues drew attention to her perinatal report and said how remarkable it was that she had pinpointed antenatal care rather than the other diagnostic and treatment. And I thought, I didn't really know enough about it, so I got out this report from her papers, and I thought, yes, maybe we should, because it's still a problem. Over the last year, these things are still happening. Deaths are still happening that shouldn't have happened. And I thought, yes, let's compare and contrast and see what's happened over the period. Sadly, she had suffered sexism when she became a district medical officer. They had an executive, so she was the doctor, and there was a chairman, there was a treasurer, and so forth. And they were all men, and they treated her very badly. And we had to get the British Medical Association to send somebody around to talk to them about this. So I felt sexism actually was quite an important area. And I have consulted with people who know about meetings and what should be done. And they said, yes, this is an important subject. You must get a good person to talk about both sexism and inequality. And that's precisely what we're doing. Well, as I've said, I've been retired, well, we were retired for 20 years, and to an extent we were enjoying ourselves. She became a potter and got credentials in potting. I was interested in oral history. We'd moved to France for 10 years actually, and I had a life of leisure. She did her potting, and I just potted about. We came back more recently, about 10 years ago. I looked around about what I could be doing, and I did the sort of thing that people do. I joined the U3A. After her death a year ago, obviously I was on my own. I am on my own. I joined a group in translating French into English, because at my age I am beginning to forget words in English. I can't find the right word. And translating from French, where I understand the French, I have to struggle to find the English word. And this is very good practice. Then the projects that I would like to do, or indeed it has started, one is that my father wrote a diary for Day by Day in 1939, and he wanted it published 50 years after his death, and I am using a program which allows me to speak his diary, which I read, and it's digitized, and they put it as a blog, basically. Well, I am very keen on the seminar on women's health, because I did it as a personal thing to honour my wife's activities, but I have been told that there is a genuine need for pursuing women's health. I have a doctor a lady doctor in Oxford who is both an obstetrician and a physician, and she deals with women's health. And she is certainly going to produce something on the menopause, for example. And I think she has other things up her sleeve to complement the perinatal study, which is directly involved with my wife, and also the sexism and the inequality, which again is, I mean, there was a parliamentary report before Christmas which indicated there was a need for this. And if this seminar or seminars helps, I will be pleased.
I have lived in the area since 1969, and I haven't moved more than 4 miles since the day I was born. And at the end of 5 years, I was fed up with school. I was ready to go out into the world and start earning a living, etc., etc. So I announced to my parents that I wasn't going back to school, I was going to work. And the first thing I got from them was, apart from the you should go back to school and all the other bits and pieces, the arguments why I shouldn't be doing this, was well, if you insist on leaving school, you must get a job that gets a pension. That was then, and that's how people thought about things. You went to school, you went to work, you got a pension, and then you retired. I'd met my husband when I was, well, the person I was going to marry when I was 17, he was 21, and we got married when I was 21, and he was 25, on his 25th birthday. We had a very happy marriage for 30 years. I have no regrets over anything that I did at that stage. It was just sorted me out quite happily. Oh, a couple of children, and he actually was of the opinion that wives stayed at home and looked after children, and that suited me down to the ground. He had been a smoker. He'd given up, but he went back to smoking, and that, as an asthmatic, that was death knell. And the last 4 or 5 years of his life was a progressive illness, which was not at all pleasant to deal with. And then in 1996, just after our 30th wedding anniversary, he died, and that was it. There was never any argument. There was only one way that was going to happen. One thing that was going to happen to Bob. He was going to go. And I had a future ahead of me that I had to think about, what am I doing? And I thought, well, I think I'd like to go travelling. But yes, I do want to go travelling. So let's make a list of what I want to go and see. The first one was the Galapagos. I knew when I was sitting in the plane at Heathrow that I'd already missed my connection at Miami. I can only say shit. What am I going to do? And I'm standing in the line with my suitcase, and then I noticed a woman about 4 or 5 in front of me, and she was just sweating. I thought, I wonder. So I left my bag there, moved 4 or 5 up the queue, and said to her, "You're not going to Quito, are you?" And in a broad American accent she said, "I am." So I said, "Well, so am I." And she said, "Well, that's fine. You bring your suitcase up here, look after mine, give me your passport, give me this." And she went off and sorted it all out. And we got on the last plane to Quito. So when we got to the carousel in Quito, there were 8 of us waiting for our luggage to come in. But Jerry, my newfound American friend, and I had no luggage. And for the next 5 days on the boat, we lived in shorts and borrowed t-shirts, and day 5 out of 7 came back from a nice trip out, and there was a bloody suitcase sitting there, and had a lovely time. So that was my first trip to abroad. I learnt one hell of a lot of things. It's the fact that speaking English helps, and don't panic. Somehow or other it'll always work out. But I've never lost a suitcase, says she. Sits. It doesn't worry me at all, travelling now. I think you've got to go and greet what you meet and not expect something better. It's quite often, I did, where was it, Madagascar, and that one, we were actually told by our guides, what you don't eat at breakfast, take with you. Because we will collect it on the coach and we go round delivering it to various small villages that haven't got much food. And when you actually realise that your things that you don't want for breakfast are desperately needed by other people, it isn't, you can't say humbling, but you do appreciate what you've got, what you're going home to. most people are quite pleasant. If you actually greet them with a smile and all the rest of it, it's, you can't demand anything, but you can have a look round and it's, your own life is much more comfortable than an awful lot of other people's. It's not difficult to get involved with the local. We push out a newsletter, quarterly newsletter, every 3-4 months. There's a weekly e-news that goes out, and we do try and encourage people to join up. It doesn't cost much, 10 quid a year, and you get all the information about what's going on in Sydenham. And I think one of the things which is nice actually is the fact that the local organisers of groups come to us because they know that we are going to provide information out there with the neighbourhood of what they are up to. So we're the first people where they knock on the door and say, here we are. Never very difficult filling up a magazine.
I graduated in travel and tourism management, so I worked in tourism for many years. I was a tour guide, a London tour guide, mainly for the American, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand and South African market. I worked for an actual tour operator called Gulliver's, which I don't think is around any longer. Travel agencies. I used to organize concerts across Europe, and then I decided I wanted a change, so I went back to school, if one might say that, and I graduated as a Montessori teacher, and also was teaching languages. Then I had my son, and everything changed. I got kind of disillusioned with the educational system, and so I home educated him for 14 years, up until the age of 14 when he decided that he wanted to go to school. So when Kai, my son, decided to go to school, I felt like, oh gosh, how am I going to occupy my time? And then I started volunteering at Dragonfly. It was through a friend of mine. I will never forget it to the day I die. She started volunteering before me, and I always been into yoga. And she said, oh, you should come down to Dragonfly and volunteer there. And at first I wasn't 100% sure. Then I thought, yeah, why not? I was thinking that I wanted to do something that was of service, and got talking with the management of Dragonfly Yoga Studio here in Sydenham, and they allowed me to open my current business, which is a zero waste refilling station, and the rest is history. Here I am. So it took quite a few months, basically, of researching, going to other zero waste shops, and asking questions, etc., etc. And it's not easy to change people's habits. The concept of zero waste shopping has been around a very long time, since probably the 80s, if not actually even longer than that. I think it had its peak in the 80s and 90s. And now, unfortunately, online, shopping online has kind of killed the business. COVID. Yes, as well. I think it's a combination of many, many different things. There's been definitely a change, and I feel much more confident with regard to certain things. Obviously, you need to, even just simply by researching things, the knowledge expands. And then when you actually do them, there is definitely a sense of a sense of accomplishment. And so, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. think I started from a very early age to understand that you cannot attach yourself to anything or anybody, because my father passed away when I was very young. I was not even 7, and he drowned and he drowned in front of me. I did actually witness the entire event, and I think in a way I'm grateful, in inverted commas obviously, because it was a massive life lesson, and it changed me. It changed the outlook that I had on life, or what, you obviously when you are 7, you don't know what kind of outlook you have in life, but I know it had a massive impact on how I decided to live my life. And I've always, I think I spent my entire life constantly questioning myself and making changes, whether it was in my professional life or love life, or, I lived in many different places, because you realize that how fragile life is. And I realized it from a very early age, so Lord tried to make the most of everything.
And did you move straight to the borough of Lewisham?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've lived in Lewisham for
A long time. Yeah, I had my first 3 children in Nigeria and my last 3 children in Lewisham.
I was born in Newcastle 67 years ago.
And have you lived in other parts of the borough? Or...
Yeah, I've lived in Forest Hill, Grove Park, and now I'm in Downham. But I grew up in Newcastle till I was 23.
In your childhood, did you live in Lewisham? Have you moved around, or have you always just lived?
No, only for about 20 months. I lived in Peckham, but then came back to Lewisham.
When I came to UK, I worked as domestic assistant in the hospital, Grove Park Hospital. And I had my own small nursery in my own home. I enjoy working with children. Then even back home in Nigeria, I was teaching in the primary school. I've always worked with children, and I love children. Molding them up, supporting them, loving them to become reasonable, God-loving adults.
How old were the children?
From birth to 15.
I'm guessing you still see some of the
Oh,
young
yeah.
people. And now they have children.
Yes, I feel so happy and so proud to see them, Oh my God, it was when I saw last year Junior. I was screaming on the road with happiness, He's so tall and doing so well. Oh my God. Wow. Gosh, I was really, really impressed. I feel so proud. I feel so happy with myself, molding them up to become somebody in the community.
To be honest, I've always had sort of a bit of anxiety, agoraphobia, because my childhood was quite stressful. I was a cleaner for a long time, and then I was helping my mum care for my autistic sister till I was 50. The time just rushed away. And then Mum had a stroke, and I looked after her for 12 years. So when she died in 2018, I was very much alone and didn't know what to do. Yeah, but I'm glad that I helped my sister and Mum, It was something I felt strongly about and wanted to do. And I was always very protective of them. I was in a bad way, I'm not going to deny it, and I did actually, I was in Lady Will psychiatric unit for a whole month. 6 months after she died, it suddenly hit me. That was not a good month, but when I came out of there, everything started to fall into place. I made friends. I met a lovely neighbour who sort of helped me do shopping, and we're still friends now. So it was wonderful to meet her and be helped by her. That was great. And I've had a partner for 3.5 years now. We're good, you know, we're good together, because I hate being alone. So yeah, everything changed dramatically. I suddenly found that I did have a life of my own, and it was quite scary to know that I was now just living for myself. It's wonderful. It is wonderful.
When I first left school, I worked in CNA at Lewisham, which is now Primark. And then I've done office work. And then when I was made redundant, I went back to sort of supermarket work. But when mine were little, I was a childminder. I also done 1 day a week for a year at Goldsmiths and trained as a playgroup leader. But sadly I had to pack that up in December '74 when my dad died, and I had to help my mum. I've got 2 children, 6 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren.
How has everything changed in the area?
Oh, it has changed. It has changed dramatically, and it's changed for good, really. It's changed for good. Yeah, you have to adapt to the new place, be friendly, work hard, be law-abiding, mix with people, help people, support people. Okay, I come here weekly. I volunteer. I visit elderly people, helping them with shopping and all. Then I also am a community member of my ethnic minority group called Egwono, mostly women's group. We meet once every month. Yeah, we discuss about development, about helping each other. Yeah, and I am also another member of Ndokwa Women. Yeah, and I'm also a member of NAYUK, Ndokwa Association UK. That's men and women together. Okay, so I'm quite busy and happy to join my community, to be there, to be helpful, to be supportive, both financially, morally. I'm there. Okay, we do choir in the morning up to 12. After that, we do drawing. Yeah, and we practice communal, talking to each other, socializing. We do drawing, we do paste and stamps, you know, just something nice, meeting people, whiling away time. We live here around that 3-ish. So by that time you spend all the day here, when you get to you want to eat, relax, and the day is gone. See, and I look forward to coming to Albany. It's a very family-oriented. The coordinators and the managers, they are very, very friendly. They understand where you're coming from. And if you have a personal problem, you bring it to them, they will really help you to solve it. We went to the old Vic. Yeah, the choir here, don't joke with us, you know. Don't joke with Rochelle. We are doing good. And we are preparing, by the grace of God, to go and perform in Goldsmith College.
Because my friend Cecil, who was my vicar, he put me forward for this project in 2020, I suppose, you know, during COVID. So we did meet me on the phone, which sounds mad, that you can do an art group on the phone. But of course we could put our works of art onto WhatsApp and share them. And they just gave me all the art stuff, you know, crayons, paint, paper, and I could do the artwork at home. And I was very alone during COVID. And just having that once a week was amazing. And it made me start to do artwork again that I hadn't done for a long time. And then, of course, when it opened up again in July 2021, I've been coming here ever since. I even did an animation group a couple of years ago that I absolutely loved. It was real fun. And that was my favourite activity. But yeah, it's just wonderful to be here. You come in and everyone's friendly and welcoming. It's just lovely.
Well, I'm here on a Tuesday and I have been for over 10 years. Mainly for me it's a choir. There are other things on this afternoon, but I bring bits in to do, and then I also make some cards that we then give to members for their birthdays and that. So there's lots going on, different things over the years. If you want to go and do some knitting or crocheting, you can do that. If you come in and you just want to sit and chat to someone, you don't have to do whatever's going on. You want to be able to help. But even if it's just talking to someone, perhaps their first time somewhere, so just feel relaxed or something. Even if it's just saying, I might say, well, where's the toilet? And I can say, well, I'll show you. It's just being helpful.
I came to Britain as a child in 1959. So I used to live in Lewisham, in Ellsworth Road, and I lived there until 1975 when I moved to Catford, and I've been living in Catford ever since. I started off as a copy typist. When I was with the chartered accountants, unfortunately my mother died. She was only 47, and I had a young brother who was 8 years old. And he started to have difficulties in school. So my boss, who was a very, very nice man, said to me, "You're such a well-educated and person." Says, "Why don't you go and do some teaching? Go to teacher training college." So that's what I did. I did some of the work in Foster Park Primary School because I wanted to work with children between the ages of 5 to 12. So that's what I wanted to major in. But then I saw an advert for a teacher in an IT unit. And IT in those days isn't anything to do with computers, it's got intermediate treatment. And I felt that I wanted to do something like that because at that time I was fostering, and so I was aware of a lot of issues with young children or disaffected young people. So I was there for 8 years. I saw another advert for a development worker in Greenwich Social Services. And I showed it to one of my colleagues, and he said to me, "I think you wrote this yourself." Because it's all the things I was talking about, trying to recruit more black and ethnic minority foster carers for black children, black and ethnic minority children. So they wanted a development worker to do that. So I applied for that job and I got it. I then trained as a social worker. It was during lockdown when I saw that awful murder of George Floyd. It really got to me. I wondered what he was thinking, and I wrote a poem called "What Was the Purpose of My Life?" Because I was wondering, as he was dying, what he thought, what was it all about? I kept on writing the poems during the lockdown so that I could at least do something. And then I used to show the poems to friends, and they said to me, "Well, why don't you publish them?" And that is how I got into doing my books. But actually to get up and talk in front of a big audience and, do the spoken word and something like that, I wasn't anything like that. I was always told that I was quiet but not shy, but at the same time I never had that confidence to do that. What was the purpose of my life? What is the answer? Was it to make people stand up to the self-appointed masters? Racism, prejudice, and violence against black people in so many places, despite the fact that we are one human race but with different colored faces? What was the purpose of my life? Why was I chosen as a sacrifice? God, in His wisdom, allowed the world to see how brutally and senselessly my life was taken from me.
how creative I can be. I didn't realize I was so creative. I absolutely love being retired. I go on cruises, I go, all over the place. I just love it. And I go to clubs. I'm out of my house every single day of the week. My daughter says to me, Mom, can't you stay home one of the day and do something? I said, when I'm dead, I'll rest enough time. I'm alive now, so I intend to do everything that I can, yes. I go to Pilates. I play Scrabble on a Wednesday. I dance here all the time on a Friday. They call me the dancing queen. So it doesn't, I don't think age stops you. And to be honest with you, I got aches and pains, but I don't let that stop me either. Because I think if you give up, I think your body just, thinks so now. I believe in carrying on. It was a big mind shift. I really had to be persuaded. I must admit that I had to be persuaded. And once I did it, I had no regret, because where I actually had my books out and people were coming, and some of the colleagues that I'd worked with in social services actually came and bought the books. And in actual fact, I have sold, I'm telling myself, I've sold over 300 copies of the first one and probably 200 of the second one. So I think I've done quite well. I've made my money back, and that's the big thing. But what I've started to do for my grandnieces and nephews is write the family backstory. Because I was born in Jamaica, they were born here, they don't know anybody. My grandnieces and granddad, they don't know my mom, because my mom died before they were born. So I'm sort of writing so that they can get to know who their grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on were. But I'm just writing it for them. I just give it to the family.
I was born in Jamaica. My mother's family is from Jamaica. Father had a property which was a dairy property. Went to a school in Kingston which was very similar to schools over here. My father wasn't from Jamaica. He'd come over to work with a bank there. And he wanted me to go back to England to go to school. So at 13, I was sent to boarding school in England. But those are some stories you wouldn't want to hear. After working in London and Northern Ireland, hopped back out to Jamaica, opening hotels, running restaurants, high-end tourism. And then I switched into export management of catering equipment. And that took me hopping along to lots of different places again, because then I was visiting places like in Libya in the desert, as well as going to Russia for the first time in '78, because in Russia they had the Olympic Games in 1980. Lots of companies went, we took some of the stuff we manufacture, because I'd learned some Russian at school. It was quite handy. Trying to stop people rioting when you gave out a plastic bag, that sort of almost swarmed the stand for a plastic bag. Playing table tennis with the KGB in the basement where they were recording everybody. It was quite something else. And then I went to Saudi Arabia for 8 years. One of the reasons I got the job in Saudi Arabia is because whereas working in London we had so many Arabic clients, I started to learn Arabic. So when I was interviewed for the job and they found out I could speak Arabic, oh yes, please come, But nowadays it's become a very social thing. They have the Riyadh season. They have boxing matches, women are allowed to go out to the cinema. None of that time. I've lived in Lewisham for about now 24 years. When I moved here, I was working in London that time and still doing export. And then
because of health issues, I had to leave the job early. And I was actually in hospital for quite a while. And then when I came out, I pretty much had to learn how to walk again. So with one thing and another, I found out about something called Lewisham Healthy Walks. And then you know how it is. One person, you meet another, and you meet another. I've always been a kind of person, every kind of job I've done had been to do with people. So when you're in the hospitality business, you're dealing with people. That's even more important than the product. I'm a people person, so one of the council officers, Lucy, came and said, "Oh, John, would you like to be vice chair of positive aging?" So I said, "Why not? Let's give it a whirl." So I started doing that. And that has really, if I can think of anything that's really changed my life, I would say joining positive aging has been a major step. Because from positive aging, and she introduced me to the Hummingbird Club, so I started working with them. That introduced me to somebody who was connected with them, who was training kids during the holiday times in drama. So I got involved in that. I also do like buddying for people who are undergoing leukemia treatment. So I'm a sort of non-medical person who buddies with them to, keep them happy. Well, positive aging is funded by Lewisham Council. The main aim of them is to be a voice for older people. I've been involved in the community monitoring group, monitoring the police for things like stop and search. I do think of it as charitable, because I think that I get as much out of doing it as maybe I'm able to give back. The idea of sort of sitting at home, watching TV, I want to be active. So I'm 82 now, I'm still active. I had one big health scare where I got leukemia and had to have a bone marrow transplant. And that took a bit of recovery. And I said, well, I've been given almost a second chance at life now. One of the things I found when I go to the care homes, for example, is some of the older people there, when you sit and chat with them, oh my God, they can tell you some stories, that really are very, very interesting and very enjoyable to sort of sit and chat with them. I had a very great childhood. I was brought up, on a tropical island, sand, sun, beach, riding horses when you wanted to come back home when you're hungry, and had a very lovely life. I then suffered culture shock when I came from there to a very strict boarding school in England. But the thing is, you try to think, what were the things that you enjoyed when you were younger, so that you can relate to younger people. So whether it's nieces and nephews or grandnieces and grandnephews, they love being entertained, they love hearing stories. But I would say if you're living in Lewisham, there are contacts that you can make through, the council puts out Lewisham Life, there's lots of information there. We put it out. There's so many groups here that have things that different things that people could be interested in. So whether it's learning how to use a computer, because that may have passed you by, data inputting, walking groups that meet socially for different things, or just places where you can go and chat and mix with people. Go to your council, find out where those things are available, and go along. Because wherever you go, you're going to find people who are friendly. If they weren't friendly, they wouldn't be there.
Good afternoon, Ray.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. I wanted to initially speak to you about your connection to the area, how long you've lived in and around the borough of Lewisham.
I was born in Peckham, right on the edge of the borough of Lewisham, lived there for 5 years, then moved into Lewisham.
About 40 years. Bermondsey. It was a Bermondsey girl from way down the dock area.
So I've worked in Lewisham most of my working life in schools, in primary schools. So everything was kind of centred around education. So when I retired, the stuff I wanted to do, I still think learning is extremely important and you're never too old to learn, but I wanted to do things for me.
I worked in employment agencies for 10 years, and that's how I came into the council as a temporary. They wanted a consultant operator because they were very hard to find. It was a man called Peter Rankin. I met him at one of the meetings in the civics room. He clocked my name. And then Peter managed to get a lottery funding, and we got some funding to employ a manager and an assistant, and it's gone great guns since.
Is it society or is that?
I'm a British Red Hatter. I did mention earlier it's slightly political because the Americans stole the poem from Jenny Joseph, and they actually charge a lot of money to be members in America, but those of us here get nothing out of it. It's a poem that starts, when I'm an old woman I shall wear purple with a red hat that doesn't go and doesn't suit me. I'll spend my pension on brandy, learn how to spit, run my stick along railings and gobble up samples in shops. So it's about getting old disgracefully. There's only one rule, that you have to wear the hat in colours. I spent most of my life at work wearing black, trying to disguise the rolls of fat on my body. So working with glass, you're working with colour, and so colour's more important to me now than it ever was before. So walking around with a red hat on, I felt extremely conspicuous. But you get used to it because other people that you're meeting are wearing the same colours, and it attracts a lot of attention from the general public. If you walk into a building, whatever it is, if we're going out together, if it's to the V&A Museum or we're going to Le Delis down the road, we're wearing the colours, people notice and ask questions, and it makes them smile. So that's important, that people smile. It is about old people not disappearing and people not realising they're there, because old people are ignored quite a lot. It's almost like you're on the stage and then you take off your costume and then you're back to your normal self. It's a bit like that with red hatting in a way. You put on your colours, when you take them off, you're back to your normal self again. But it does give you courage to try and do things that you wouldn't necessarily do on your own. I mean, it must be very intimidating for other people when we're around sometimes, when you've got hundreds of ladies dressed in purple with red hats. But we're not frightened really, and we don't really spit that often.
I wish we had more rooms because we could, we do everything from acupuncture, Pilates, to helping people with disabilities, to we take on people who are doing the Gigabet awards and things like that. They come in, we take. I don't think there's anything we haven't done. It's just having the room to do it. This here, it's very much like camaraderie, and everybody sort of gets on with everybody else the best they can. And the volunteers that we've got are amazing.
Well, I feel blessed in life that I'm able to have a comfortable roof over my head, nice family, I can do what I want with my time, and I'm very grateful for being able to do those things. So if I can do something else to help somebody else, and the thought of this building being turned into a block of flats was bonkers.
The people are from all walks of life. There's no point in laying in bed, quite honestly. If you don't get up and do something, then you've missed some part of your life. If I was on my own and I didn't have anywhere, I didn't have anyone, to be able to know that I could come here and talk to someone and they would turn and say, well, you know, what are you doing sitting for? You know, it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference.
I did not want to be the kind of person that retired and sat in front of the television all day. I needed to get out and about and do things. And I thought when I retired, my world was going to get much, much smaller, but in actual fact, it hasn't. Yeah, going from working long hours, I needed to find a purpose after retiring.
I felt quite humble, and especially when you go to receive your honours and you'd hear of all the different things these people do. It was really, really quite humbling. Looking around you, all these people here have done something. They've done good. And they're being rewarded for it. So everything is not as bad as people are making out. So there is such a lot of love and a lot of caring, and it just proves it by all these people here. I mean, I'm just at a library and you see some of these people, I don't know, it's absolutely amazing.
Don't feel you have to be at home all the time. If there are people around you that you can join in with social events, it just makes you feel so much better. It's so important to socialise with other people. And when I started volunteering at the library, I thought it would probably be a one-way thing where I was helping others, but actually you get so much more from it. If you want to make the most out of life, you need to keep going and you need to keep doing things.
I never regretted any choices that I've ever made in my life. Everything that I done, did, etc. I've always been, even though they might have not turned up the way I wanted them to turn up, but they've always been like a massive lesson. So therefore, no, absolutely no regrets. Enjoy it. It never ends until it ends.
And I just say go for it, because I tell you, there's a big world out there. And the good thing with Lewisham, I must say, there are loads and loads of things for older people to do. I'm really, really happy about that. And I don't think there's any excuse for anyone to sit at home. I love the theatre. They always have things on at the theatre. And as a black woman, I love it when Oliver comes there and does his thing. So I always go to the Oliver Samuels shows and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, there's plenty of Lewisham to be done.
Do it. Get on and do it. I mean, I last year did the length of the Danube from Budapest right the way down to Romania. Most people are quite pleasant.
Well, clearly, if you don't do anything, you're not going to have much of a life. It is important to communicate with people and do things. You know, seek what help, such as Lewisham actually provides, which is, you know, I found extremely useful. Other people will too.
Come on board. You will never regret it. Yeah, it's a very nice, family-friendly, caring, orientated. With my Jasmine around, you can never go wrong. They take you seriously. They listen. they listen to your problem. If you don't come on Tuesday or whenever, they will phone you to find out, Stella, what's wrong? We didn't see you today. You know, that's scary. I'm retired but not tired.
Please come along. Please, it's lovely. Because there's room for everyone. It's such a big space down there, you know. Yes, I've made friends. And the volunteers are amazing. It's my happy place.
I don't know about other councils, but I would say if you're living in Lewisham, there are contacts that you can make through the council puts out Lewisham Life. There's lots of information there. There's so many groups here that have things that different things that people could be interested in. So whether it's learning how to use a computer, because that may have passed you by, data inputting, walking groups that meet socially for different things, or just places where you can go and chat and mix with people. Go to your council, find out where those things are available, and go along. Because wherever you go, you're going to find people who are friendly. If they weren't friendly, they wouldn't be there.
Don't sit at home on your own if you can get out.
Be alive, get up and do it. It's rewarding, and it gives you life as well as other people. There's a lot of misery around, and if you can make someone happy, just a little bit, then it's all worthwhile. I sound so lovely, don't I? I'm not really.